Okay, so in this video we'll learn about the other type of function which is called the anonymous function and basically the lambda function, right? Now lambda functions are called anonymous function because they do not have any name, or they do not have a name, and basically they are defined using the lambda keyword followed by a list of arguments and a colon and then the function body. Okay, so let's see what they are in detail. Anonymous functions, or we can call lambda functions. Okay, so the syntax is lambda, then here we go the parameters which we need to pass to function, then colon will define the separation between the body of the function, then it will be like, and the function body. Okay, so this is the function body, and in you can store name, some name also you can store it in some name, and then you can use that name to use the function. That's another possibility. However, this name is just a variable we are storing, not like def we are giving a name, right? So we are like create user is a name, student record is a name. We are not giving any name to this function, we are just using a lambda, and that's it. So we'll see that in detail. So let's see, we have a function called def add, right? I think we have already defined that function, but let's redefine it, it's okay. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm just adding a function and I'm just creating this. Now this is a very simple operation, and obviously I'm just doing x plus y, so I have to define, give a name, parameter. So how about I just do it like that: add equal to lambda, then the parameters are x comma y, and then what I need to do, x plus y. So simple. So this is also doing the same thing. So this is also doing what this two line of code is doing. It's also doing the same thing. So the difference between the regular function and the lambda function is that this letter does not have a name and is defined in one line of code. That's it. That's the only difference. And this makes them, this makes these functions useful for short and simple operations that we don't need to give a name to, or when we need to pass a function as an argument to another function, right? So we'll see when we see high order functions like map, filter, so we pass the function there, right? So when we pass a function there, in the case of map, filter and reduce, so that time it becomes very handy to just have a lambda function for a small operation and do that. So also why lambda function are called, because they do not have a name, we understand in summary, and that's why they often use in a small and simple operations that don't need any name per se, and they are very useful when we need to pass a function as an argument to another function, and we don't want to define a separate function with a name. So that is how the lambda functions helps us. However, let's do let's see some other different lambda functions. I will walk you through. Okay, so if you have not finding it difficult, just don't worry, practice it, you will come to know it's very easy. Okay, so let's say I call it add, right? So if I call add and I1 comma 2, so it will give me 3, right? So like that. So let's define a function that takes a number as an argument and squares it. Okay, so define a function which takes an argument and squares it. So how can I do that? So I'll define square equals to lambda x and x raised to power 2. That's it, right? So this function basically square, let's say 5, and then I'll get 25. So it's just taking one single parameter and argument and squaring it. Okay, so let's see another example where lambda function takes two numbers as an argument and return their product. So multiply them. So multiply equal to lambda x comma y and x multiplied by y, and then when I'll call it, let's say 5 into 6, sorry, my bad, 30, right? So that's another example of how we can use lambda function. We can also use lambda function for relatively this is very simple example. So we can use lambda functions to do something more complex task also. So for example, let's consider a function that takes list of string as an argument and returns a new list with all strings in uppercase. Okay, so we'll take a list of strings as an argument and return a new list with all the strings in uppercase. Perfect. So what basically we are trying to do here, well, let's say take hello there as an output, that's an input. So this is our input. So let's say this is our input and output would be hello there. This is gonna be our output. This is what we want to do, right? Now let's define a lambda function. Let's make upper equals to lambda strings string upper for string in strings. Now this I have used list comprehension here, so don't worry, we will be covering it very soon and you will love it. You will fall in love with it the way I am, and then you will start using that very often. I hope so. So let me just call this and then I'll pass the original string. Here we go. So what we have just done, we have converted that into a upper. So again, reiterating, so lambda functions are generally used when we need a small one-time use function, while user-defined functions are used when we need to reuse the function multiple times throughout our code. Okay, so that is the basic differentiation between how we need to use it. If it is a one-time use, right, I need not to define a function, I can just do it in one time. However, user-defined function, when you have to reuse it, right, so that is where this function comes handy. So I think that's all for this video. See you in another video.